Eli. The word of the Lord was rare in those days. Visions were not widespread. At that time, Eli, whose eyesight had begun to grow dim, so that he could not see, was lying down in his room. The lamp of God had not yet gone out. And Samuel was lying down in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was. Then the Lord called, "Samuel, Samuel." And he said, "Here I am," and ran to Eli, and said, "Here I am, for you called me." He said, "I did not call. Lie down again." So he went and lay down. The Lord called again, "Samuel, Samuel." Samuel got up and went to Eli, and said, "Here I am, for you called me." But he said, "I did not call, my son. Lie down again." Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, and the word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. The Lord called Samuel again a third time. He got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." Then Eli perceived that the Lord was calling the boy. Therefore Eli said to Samuel, "Go lie down, and if he calls you, you shall say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" Samuel went and lay down in his place. Now the Lord came and stood there, calling as before, "Samuel, Samuel." Samuel said, "Speak, for your servant is listening." Then the Lord said to Samuel, "See, I am about to do something in Israel that will make both ears of anyone who hears of it tingle. On that day I will fulfill against Eli that I have spoken concerning his house from beginning to end. For I have told him that I am about to punish his house forever for the iniquity that he knew, because his sons were blaspheming God, and he did not restrain them. Therefore I swear to the house of Eli, the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be expiated by sacrifice or offering forever." Samuel lay there until morning. Then he opened the doors of the house of the Lord. Samuel was afraid to tell the vision to Eli. But Eli called Samuel and said, "Samuel, my son." He said, "Here I am." Eli said, "What was it that he told you? Do not hide it from me. May God do so to you and more also if you hide anything from me of all that he told you." So Samuel told him everything and hid nothing from him. Then he said, "It is the Lord, let him do what seems good to him." As Samuel grew up, the Lord was with him, and let none of his words fall to the ground. And all Israel from Dan to Beersheba knew that Samuel was a trustworthy prophet of the Lord. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
A lesson from the second letter of Paul to the Corinthians. We do not proclaim ourselves, we proclaim Jesus Christ as Lord, and ourselves as your slaves for Jesus' sake. For it is the God who said, "Let light shine out of darkness," who has shone in the hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. We have this treasure in clay jars, so that it may be made clear that this extraordinary power belongs to God and does not come from us. We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed, perplexed, not driven to despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but not destroyed, always carrying in the body the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may also be made visible in our bodies. For while we live, we are always being given up to death for Jesus' sake, so that the life of Jesus may be made visible in our mortal flesh. So death is at work in us, but life in you. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
The Holy Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ, according to Mark.
Glory to you, Lord Christ.
One Sabbath, Jesus and his disciples were going through the grain fields, and as they made their way, his disciples began to pluck heads of grain. The Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are they doing what is not lawful on the Sabbath?" And he said to him, "Have you never read what David did when he and his companions were hungry and in need of food. He entered the house of God when Abiathar was high priest and ate the bread of the presence, which it is not lawful for any but the priests to eat, and he gave some to his companions. Then he said to them, "The Sabbath was made for humankind, and not humankind for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath." Again, he entered the synagogue, and a man was there who had a withered hand. They watched him to see whether he would cure him on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. And he said to the man who had the withered hand, "Come forward." Then he said to them, "Is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath, to save life or to kill?" But they were silent. He looked around at them with anger. He was grieved at the hardness of their hearts, and said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He stretched it out, and his hand was restored. The Pharisees went out and immediately conspired with the Herodians against him, how to destroy him. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to thee, O Christ.
Well, Jesus is on a tear at the beginning of the Gospel of Mark. He is healing, he is casting out demons, he is teaching in the synagogue in front of everybody. He is out there. And he is saying, things are a little different. I suggest we reevaluate. And as we see, some people, I'm sure, are happy about what he was saying, because that's why we're here, right? But there were some who were not. And we hear about them in the Gospel. So Jesus is changing things. How many of us like change? Okay, one person. I saw one, what, two? Yeah, okay, 2.5. Some things changing are good to change, right? Like if it were to rain, would we be thrilled or what? Yeah, I think we would be very happy. Phone upgrade? Not so much. Right? Someone like Mark can handle a phone upgrade, I think. Anyway, someone with some technical competence, more than mine anyway. But there's a lot of change in life. In case you have not noticed this, I am telling you this pearl of wisdom that you never thought about before. Change is confusing, though. And right now, we are in a time of a lot of change in our society and in our churches, right? I want to say that it's always so, but there's a woman named Phyllis Tickle. Have you heard of her? Yeah, she was an Episcopalian. She died in 2015. But a prolific writer about religion and how, particularly the Christian church, is changing. And when I say church, I mean everything, not just the Episcopal Church. She had been the religion editor at Publishers Weekly for decades. So she had read everything in English that there was to read about religion for decades. So she was very knowledgeable. She had a great position to look out from and say, wow, look at what's going on. And she suggests that the Christian church has changed radically about every 500 years. The first change being Jesus, right? And of course, he didn't intend to found a church. He intended to bring his people, the Jewish people, to an understanding of the laws, the mitzvahs, the good deeds, the rule of God that they were supposed to be following. Well, he accidentally founds a church. Okay, that's fine. Well, then the church has to figure out what it's doing. So around 600, so that's maybe 550 years, Gregory the Great, a great pope, organizes the church. He gets the hierarchy of the church fairly well organized. Now remember, there's only one church. So we're not saying, well, maybe he did this for the Catholic Church. It was the whole church. And it was the West and the East. So there's a structure in place, and there is something like some expectations of liturgy. I mean, the East was always a little different from the West. So anyway, but that was kind of organized. The church was organized, more or less, with Gregory. So that works until, I think it's 1054. The Eastern churches say, we are so done with this Latin language. We are so done with all of this stuff that you guys do. We are breaking away. And there's more than just the structure, of course, but that was a great schism. So the Eastern Orthodox churches, as we call them, they have all different hierarchy and structure and all this kind of stuff. Right? So the West keeps chugging along until the man who wrote this last hymn that we sang, words and music, Martin Luther, and some others like John Calvin, Ulrich Zwingli, and our famous Thomas Cranmer. These people come along, and there's a Reformation. Only in the West. The East didn't feel the need to reform. So we have that. All right, that was about 500 years ago. In fact, we just celebrated, I think the Lutheran churches really got into it, but celebrated the 500th anniversary of Luther's first complaints about the church. So here we are, and we are due for another change. And according to Phyllis Tickle, we are having one. Now, she and other people who are interested in this stuff call it emergence Christianity. And it's a recognition that the society has an effect on how churches function. Whether it has an effect on doctrine and basic belief is a big question as well. But so we do things a little differently from, say, 50 years ago. I mean, doing right one today, this is a nice juxtaposition. Because for many of us, it's a pleasant memory. I think maybe for some newer people or people who just never liked it to start with, like, oh my gosh, doing that again? But it's old-fashioned language, right? We have changed that. But we still have this resource to draw on. But we don't talk like this anymore. We don't say, thou becomest, something. We don't use that kind of language. Actually, that was incorrect. It should be, never mind. It's too complicated. The English language has changed. Let me just move right on here. So I was looking at some things in society that might help us understand what's going on in the church. Because we're in the middle of this change. It is hard for us to understand just what's going on. It will be a lot easier in 200 years. So perhaps we can look down or up, depending on your beliefs, and see what's happening, right? But for right now, there were some advertising slogans that I thought actually kind of captured what we're doing in society that's affecting the church. One of the big ones, you have to identify where this comes from, okay? So this is a quiz, is no rules, just right. You guys don't watch enough television. Outback Steakhouse. Yeah, shrimp on the Barbie, that's a part I like. Okay? Yeah, no rules, just right. You go to Outback Steakhouse, they say you don't have to dress up, you don't have to do anything special, you're going to love them, we're going to take care of you, everything's going to be good, right? That is what many people look for when they come to church. And can you blame them? Do we want to be all dressed up every single Sunday? If we wear jeans and flip-flops, are we not welcome? No, come as you are. That is a statement that is, I think, important for churches. If you feel that you want to dress up or do something special for that Sunday, that's good. If you feel that you want to do something else, that's also good. But 50 or 100 years ago, that was not the case, was it? I remember the little doilies on the top of the head thing, even in the Episcopal Church. Yeah. I don't miss that, that's for sure. And along with it also goes a lack of interest in a lot of formal rules. Right? How do you join the church? What exactly do you do? What if you make a mistake? I have a friend who is really happy to go to a bar on her own and sit at the bar and drink and talk to strangers. But she is terrified to go to church. And she's afraid she's going to make a mistake. Now, I don't want to go to a bar and drink by myself. Although I'm kind of past the age where, anyway. But, I mean, I'd rather go to church. And that's not because I'm a holy, fabulous person. It's just different. But I don't feel unsafe in the church, whereas she does. I felt more unsafe in the bar. And she feels fine. I mean, she's been fine. Nothing's ever happened. So, anyway. So that's kind of the no rules, just right. And where do you feel comfortable? There's also, think globally, act locally. And that really is a nod to the fact that we have information coming in from everywhere all the time. With the speed of electricity, I guess, we know about everything that's happening all the time. And it can be overwhelming. What do we do? There's a disaster here, or something happens there. And I'm not lessening the fact that these are disasters, but how do we act? What do we do? Do we just say, oh, there's too much, I can't do anything? Well, what people suggest, and I think this makes sense, is act locally. We can do something here, right? So that's kind of what we do, I think. And we look for community around us, as well as on the internet or whatever. So there's both. But there's a lot of information out there, and that can be confusing. And another one, this was said to me recently, and I appreciated it, and this is, keep it simple, stupid. Let's not make things more complicated than they have to be. And that's also very important. Church can be confusing. This is one of the reasons why we use this bulletin now. If you are an incredible Episcopalian, you're probably okay with the Book of Common Prayer. And I love the Book of Common Prayer. I don't have a problem flipping around in it. It is not well put together. So it can be difficult to find your way fast enough to catch up with what's going on, right? So we do this. That's an example of keeping it simple. And it's not because everybody's stupid. It's just a lot easier. We can also run into very complicated doctrine. Like last week when we were talking about the Trinity, I found it interesting that a lot of people said, oh, Trinity's fine with me, and gave a very simple example of what it meant to them. And I thought, I really need to do that. That's a lot easier. So these are some of the societal things I think that are affecting us in a church. We don't have TV screens. We could. I don't think that will go over very well, but many churches do. And they work. So I have this fantasy that we're going to have iPads in their pews, and the service will be on that, so we can stop cutting trees. But yeah, that would work. Anyway, so all these things have influenced how we do church. Right? The big question, I think, and I hope you remember this one, it's another restaurant slogan. Where's the beef? Remember that one? And it's from?
McDonald's.
No? No? Wendy's, yes! The little grumpy lady. Where's the beef? Where's the beef? Yeah, she was great. That's really what we're looking for in church, is the substance, the protein, what feeds us. Not so much the bun, although some places advertise, fabulous bread. But it's what's important and what keeps us going. And without going into asking you to press this metaphor too far, it's Jesus, right? Jesus is what keeps us going. He's what's important. And of course, he does feed us at the Eucharist. So, okay, just moving along with this metaphor. He's the center. He's what we look for. You can have anything else when you go out, but you need some kind of sustenance to keep you going. So that's what Jesus provides. And look what he does in the gospel today. He is interpreting the law to the Pharisees, who were people very interested in the law. And he actually starts by, the way he tells the story of David going into the temple and taking the bread that has been sanctified, is supposed to be eaten just by the priests, he actually doesn't tell the story the way that it's told in Samuel. So that's one way. I don't know whether that was Mark or Jesus, but he emphasizes the fact that David and his men, I would say, because they were fighting with Saul, are hungry. They could be starving, they're not born. They need sustenance. And this is the only place they could find it. So was it okay to take that? Well, that's a good question. Well, you weren't supposed to do that, right? The other story is something that Jesus does. He heals a man whose hand is not working properly on the Sabbath. Not supposed to work on the Sabbath. Okay? Is that a bad thing to do? To heal someone on the Sabbath? Well, I think Jesus is saying, no. These are good things to do. The first one is not on the Sabbath, but the rules are meant for us, not us for the rules. He says that very clearly. The Sabbath is made for human beings and not vice versa. The Sabbath is a day of rest, right? God rested. Does God need to rest? I don't think so. We don't have a couch, for God to rest on. In our churches, we need to rest. We get overwhelmed. We get tired. We need to rest. But if there's something we can do on the Sabbath or in an unusual situation where people's lives are on the line, yes, we do that. Because our job is to foster life, to make life good for every living thing, to continue life, the life that God has created. So it's pretty clear that Jesus says the real meaning of all these laws is very simple. It's foster life. Don't worry about all the particulars. Are you doing the right thing? Are people around you healthier, happier, better off? Are you healthier and happier and better off in the ways that matter? So that's simple. That's keeping it simple. Parentheses stupid, in case someone doesn't get it. So all the rest of the stuff is just fluff, or it's the bun, or whatever. This is the meat that he's getting at. He's showing us that. The way that we do this, the way that we understand all these laws and all these customs and all these expectations mean, all this information that we're getting all along with, is we do what Samuel did, what Eli told him. So we listen to God. Because that passage starts off saying, there were few visions. God was not heard very often. But the light of God had not gone out. And in Jesus, we have the light of God burning brightly and speaking to us. So our job is to listen. Put away all the other stuff, just listen. And we will hear God. We cut away all the stuff. So I believe Jesus would suggest a slogan to us, something like this. Love God, love your neighbors, and just do it. That's what